Under the full moon, a curved blade slices through the night air, leaving a trail of blood over the rooftops. The weapon belongs to a lone warrior who carves a path of destruction with a glowing pink aura. His fierce attack cuts down another opponent who falls before the powerful slash. The warrior stands with blood on his face, his expression a mix of exhaustion and grim determination. He is surrounded by fallen bodies while a voice taunts him for using techniques other than his family's. The speaker is Dedong, leader of the blood demon cult, who notes that the family technique was passed to a brat. The former head, Sun Wu Jin, looks down and calls the warrior vicious for slaughtering his own family. Doug Dang then gestures toward a young girl in the distance, asking what he will do about the child. A look of despair crosses the warrior's face, which seems to please the cult leader. She cruelly orders Sun Wu Jin, the last head of his family, to kill the young girl as well. The girl Sun Wu Yanhua holds her own sword, her face filled with a mix of fear and defiance. At that moment, the ghostly figures of his fallen comrades appear behind Seon Wu Jin. He lowers his head in sorrow, apologizing to his captain for feeling like he could never be like him. A spectral hand comforts him as his captain's spirit gently asks if he is cowering again. The spirit tells him he has already done his best, and that the results are not his responsibility. He remembers his captain's words about never giving up, and decides to do what he can until the very end. He realizes that if he is captured, he will become Doug Dang's puppet, and a threat to his captain. With renewed resolve, he decides he would rather die by his own will than be taken. The cult leader watches in shock and outrage, demanding to know what he is planning to do. He declares that she won't be able to use his body and vows to kill her even if he becomes a ghost. Without hesitation, he plunges the blade into his own chest as the cult leader screams in fury. His vision blurs and the world around him fades into a distant, hazy memory. As he falls, he regrets running away from his problems instead of living more earnestly. His spirit drifts in a purple void and he hears an angry voice calling his name. Suddenly, old man with a furious expression demands to know if Jin has anything to say. He finds himself kneeling on the floor much younger, and with his hands bound, looking utterly confused. The young man is in a large room being judged by the old man while others watch from the side. He recognizes the man as his father, Sun Wu Jung, whom he has not seen in 10 years. The youth looks up with a dazed expression, quietly addressing the man as his father. He closes his eyes for a moment, trying to make sense of the bewildering situation. Looking down at his tied hands, the feeling of disorientation only grows stronger. His father accuses him of admitting to the murder of his brother-in-law by staying silent. The youth is shocked, wondering if he really killed a man named Dan Hassong. A memory surfaces of him drinking happily with his friend, recalling that Dan died over 10 years ago. He then remembers standing over his friend's body, but believes he had no motive or ability to do it. He realizes he has returned to the past, to the moment he was framed for his friend's murder. Back in the present moment, kneeling before his father, he can only say that he does not remember. The family head erupts in anger, yelling that his answer is completely unacceptable. His 3 brothers watch with smirks as their father debates killing him to appease the Dan family. One of his brothers suggests they should cripple him and send him over alive for them to handle. The youngest brother then proposes sending Jin to the front lines, citing the Alliance's request for a battle family member. He argues it is a good way for a life destined to die to be useful, as their father silently considers the idea. The other brothers look pleased, realizing this plan would also spare them from having to go themselves. The front lines mark the border where the Martial Alliance fought the Blood Demon cult during the Great Blood War. Though the Alliance stopped the cult's invasion, they couldn't reclaim the occupied lands, so they established a watch post. Jin understands this is a perfect excuse for his brothers to dispose of him, using the false accusation as justification. He remains kneeling, convinced that one of his siblings must have orchestrated the entire conspiracy against him. Later that night, he sits alone in a cell, knowing his father's decision is the same as in his past life. Hearing footsteps approach, he strengthens his resolve, thinking that this time he must obtain what he needs. A young woman, Sanwoo Yanhwa, appears at his cell, her face etched with worry as she asks if he is okay. Jin reassures her that he is fine, and asks about her, and she replies that she believes he is innocent. He remembers that in his previous life she only cried, so this time he confidently declares that he is not the culprit. The girl is visibly shocked by his unexpectedly firm and clear statement of innocence. She asks why he is so certain, so he calmly explains he had no reason to harm his only friend and her fiancé. He reveals they were face to face when a sword he did not possess was found stuck in his friend's back. After processing this, Yan will ask why he remained silent and didn't defend himself in front of their father. Jin simply replies that going to the front line seemed like a better choice for him, which only confuses her more. A memory from his childhood flashes through his mind, recalling how he had to survive on his own after his mother died. His excellent memory made him a caster, a prodigy, but he was forced to act like a fool to survive among his jealous brothers. But the act became a self-destructive habit, and by the time he realized it, he had truly become a fool to everyone. For 21 years, he was seen as a worthless fool, a shame to his family who was constantly mocked. To change his fate, he must leave the family and meet his hero, gale-flying Dragon Seolpang at the front lines. But he notices Yeonwa's attitude has changed. She's not comforting him like she did in the past. He wonders if his own calm demeanor is the reason for her different reaction this time. Just then, he senses another presence, and turns around with a sudden gasp. He realizes who has been silently watching him from the shadows. His father, Sun Woo-jung, stands outside the cell, his expression unreadable. Jin is surprised because his father's presence also feels different from how he remembers it. In his past life, his father would simply sigh and leave after seeing him beg to be set free. But this time, the family head stands his ground and asks his son if he was truly framed for the murder. The young man realizes his father must have overheard his conversation with Yeonwa. The older man admits he always knew Jin was acting foolish on purpose, but didn't know he wanted to leave. He apologizes to his son, blaming himself for letting his life become such a mess. Jin is stunned by this unexpected apology, as his father had always neglected him in the past. He recalls how even his father, the head of the family, was heavily influenced by his in-laws. He realizes that his father's neglect might have been a subtle way of protecting him. Sun Woo-jung then asks if his son has any final requests before he is sent away. Seizing the opportunity, Jin asks for permission to enter the head's private library for just one day. His father is surprised by the request, questioning why he would want to visit the library now. Jin explains that he is ashamed of not knowing his family's martial arts and wants to learn before leaving. He recalls that in his past life he knew nothing of his family's arts and had to steal techniques from others. If he could learn the Sun Woo 13 swords, he knows he could advance much faster this time. His father scoffs at the idea of learning martial arts in a single day from books alone. Despite his skepticism, the family head closes his eyes and agrees to grant the request. The young man is thrilled but stops as his father adds a condition to the agreement. The older man states that learning cultivation alone is dangerous, so he will teach him directly. Though surprised, Jin quickly agrees and sits in the lotus position as instructed. His father places his hands on the cell door, declaring he will pass on the primordial infinite arts. He then transfers a glowing energy into Jin's back, while reciting the incantation for him to memorize. The youth is shocked, realizing he is being taught the secret art only the head and hair can learn. He feels a strange sensation, something he should be happy about, but that feels slightly off. As his father continues the energy transfer, Jin struggles to understand this unfamiliar feeling. A moment of quiet passes as he processes the unexpected turn of events. Meanwhile, his brothers protest loudly, arguing that their father should not let Jin into the library. Sun Woo-jung calmly replies that it would damage the family's honor if Jin dies without knowing anything. He firmly states that his decision is final, leaving his other sons stunned into silence. Later, Jin stands alone in the vast library, grateful that his request was granted for one day. He clasps his hands with a grin, a mysterious ghostly figure appearing behind him. The figure asks if one day is truly enough, and the young man confidently replies that it is plenty. His goal is not to learn the arts in a day, but to memorize every single detail with his perfect memory. His photographic memory was once considered a sign of a prodigy, allowing him to survive by mimicking his comrades. Captain Seolpang had even given his special ability a name, calling it the scene memory technique. Now, sitting in the library, he feels confident he can absorb all the information and put it to good use. He begins his study with the primordial infinite arts and the family's ultimate technique, the 13 swords. After cramming countless books into his head, he lies on the floor completely drained from the effort. He admits to himself that he doesn't understand the 13 swords at all, and decides to step out for fresh air. Feeling mentally exhausted, the youth heads outside to take a much-needed break from his intense studies. He collapses onto the grass nearby, wondering if he should just give up for the day. Lying on the ground, he lets out a deep sigh, the mental fatigue weighing heavily on him. He acknowledges that he can't understand most of what he's read, which makes him question his efforts. Suddenly, a familiar mocking voice cuts through the air, wondering what martial arts he could possibly learn. His brothers are walking by with several young women sneering at his supposed laziness. Among them are two ladies he doesn't recognize, one of whom watches him with quiet curiosity. The group stops and looks down at him from a distance, as one of the women asks about his identity. His brother smugly introduces him as the family's shameful younger brother, calling him more of a pig than a human. The young lady is surprised to learn that he is being sent to the front lines the very next day. One brother quickly steps in, urging the esteemed young lady judge not to waste her attention on him. They continue to belittle him in front of the guests, saying he is just a pig going to pay for his crimes. He immediately recognizes the name, realizing she is the famous genius swordsman, Juj Soyal. He remembers hearing that she was touring various families to gain experience, which explains her presence. He gets up from the ground as his youngest brother, G, approaches him with a sneer. The sibling mockingly asks how his training went and challenges him to demonstrate his newfound skills. Jin tries to brush him off, saying one day of training makes no difference and he should hurry back. Annoyed by the dismissal, his brother throws a sudden punch, intending to humiliate him. To everyone's surprise, Jin catches the fist effortlessly, a faint purple aura glowing around his hand. The attacker is stunned into silence, completely shocked that his punch was so easily blocked. Jin winces, realizing how weak his current body is if simply blocking a punch causes him pain. The other siblings burst into laughter, taunting G for being stopped by a pig and calling his punch slow. Humiliated and enraged, G leaps forward, unleashing a more serious and rapid assault. He lands a series of quick strikes on Jin, who appears to be taking the hits without fighting back. The young man grimaces from the flurry of blows, enduring the pain as he is pushed back. But as he watches the movements, he notices that the attack style seems strangely familiar. A flash of insight hits him as he recognizes the pattern in his brother's martial arts. He is certain that this is the Sanwo family's unique fighting style in action. Jai continues his relentless attack, unknowingly demonstrating the Gale 13 strikes. A wide, excited grin spreads across Jin's face as he realizes the opportunity, exclaiming that this is good. The attacker stops in confusion, bewildered by his brother's bizarre and happy reaction. Jin quickly backtracks, saying he misspoke, then taunts his brother to hurry up and attack more. The onlookers find this hilarious, mocking G by saying his attacks must feel good to his target. Driven by pure rage, G screams and launches himself forward again while Jin laughs, ready for more. The real-life demonstration helps him finally understand the movements he couldn't grasp from the manual alone. He recognizes the technique as Gale-breaking wave, which uses fists and leads to target weak points. But he notices his brother isn't executing the moves correctly, leaving a clear opening in his defense. With a surge of glowing pink energy, Jin strikes his brother's chest, hitting the exposed weak point perfectly. G stumbles backward, coughing up blood from the unexpected and powerful counterattack. Jin takes a deep breath and quickly jumps back to create distance, his own body etching from the brief exchange. The oldest brother scoffs, dismissing the victory as dumb luck, and challenges Jin to show them the technique again. The young man realizes he is too exhausted to continue and can't risk exposing his current physical limits. The female genius, Juj Seol, speaks up, calling the brother's behavior disappointing. Flustered, the eldest brother quickly tries to save face, claiming he was just about to check on his injured sibling. As his brothers help the fallen G, Jin reflects on how pathetic it is to have been beaten by them for so long. With their pride wounded, the group helps their injured brother up and walks away in defeat. Once they are gone, Jin collapses to the ground in relief, knowing he needs to improve his body's condition. Lying on the grass, he closes his eyes, completely spent from the fight and the intense day of studying. He is startled when he opens his eyes and finds his father standing over him, looking down with a neutral expression. The youth scrambles to sit up, stammering an explanation for his seemingly lazy behavior, but his father simply tells him he worked hard and did well, offering a rare and gentle smile of approval. Jin is left speechless, touched by the unexpected words of praise from his usually distant father. The family head then reveals that of his 4 marriages, only one was by his own choice. He admits that while he once believed everything he did was for the family, he is no longer so sure. He asks if his son read the manual for the Sanwo 13 swords, and Jin confirms that he did. The family head then says he's going to practice swordsmanship and tells his son to rest before going back inside. He draws his sword, a serious and focused expression on his face as he prepares to demonstrate the forms. With swift and powerful movements, he gracefully executes the family's legendary sword techniques. Jin watches in awe, recognizing the fluid and deadly dance as the Sanwo 13 swords. The head of the family repeats the forms over and over from the first to the 13th, each time faster than the last. With a surge of glowing energy, he performs the techniques with incredible power and precision. The young man realizes with a jolt of gratitude that his father is personally demonstrating the forms just for him. Back in the library, he sits among piles of books, now able to cross-reference the manuals with his fresh memory. He reads through his ancestors' diaries, but finds that while they left insights, he still can't fully understand the art. He sets down a stack of books, admitting that even the basic forms are difficult to comprehend completely. As he picks up another book, he notices something strange about its cover, pausing to take a closer look. He realizes that one side of the book's cover is significantly thicker than the other. Carefully, he pries open the thick cover, suspecting something might be hidden inside. As expected, he finds a folded piece of parchment concealed within the book's binding. He unfolds the hidden paper and discovers it contains an explanation of additional forms. As he examines the document, he finds detailed illustrations of a 14th form. Turning the paper over, he is stunned to find instructions for a 15th form as well. A look of dawning realization crosses his face as he stares at the hidden techniques. Later that night, the family estate is quiet with lights glowing softly from within the buildings. In her room, Sun Woo Yunhua sits at her vanity, quietly arranging her hair while looking at her reflection. She lets out a soft sigh, her mind drifting back to the events that unfolded earlier in the day. Her thoughts turn to the visiting genius, Judge Seo Yol, and the commotion she caused among her brothers. She recalls seeing her own family members fawning over the famous guest from Heaven's Gift Sword Peak. Back in the present, she runs her hands through her hair in frustration, wishing she were a little stronger. Her maids enter gossiping about how the fourth master was beaten up and injured by the third young master. One of the maids adds that he was trying to show off for Lady Juge and fainted right in front of her. The maids burst into laughter at the humiliating story, but they are quickly silenced by a sudden movement. Yanhua stands up, her eyes glowing with a menacing red light as she asks them to repeat what they just said. Terrified by her sudden change in demeanor, the maids nervously confirm that the story is true. She is utterly shocked and furious, unable to believe that Jin would dare to harm their brother. Meanwhile, Juge Soil receives a document from her companion containing information on Sound Woo Jin. The genius swordswoman thanks her friend, promising to pay her back for buying the information. Her companion asks why she is so interested in the fat young master, and Judge admits she was shocked by his physique. The blue-haired girl agrees, noting how his eyes were just slits buried in fat, while clutching a dunder and all. Teddy bear. The teddy bear she holds seems to let out a puff of air as if mimicking a snicker. Shuj playfully suggests her friend is only interested because Jin resembles the treasure doll she always carries. But her companion explains that the move he used was an ordinary, which made her curious about his past. The genius acknowledges her friend's keen insight, but wonders why shed bother with someone so physically weak. She muses that if even their own master couldn't understand her friend's curiosity, she has no hope of figuring it out. The genius swordswoman finds it fascinating that her companion can read with her hair covering her eyes. The blue-haired girl simply states that, since she can see the letters, she can read them. Juga thoughtfully considers her friend's unusual hairstyle, and wonders if she should suggest a change. But her companion teases that she might get jealous if Juje received any more attention than she already does. Juje laughs, saying she is glad to have a friend who is not interested in the spotlight. The girl replies that she feels the same, appreciating that Juje is not like a typical member of her famous family. The next morning, Jin prepares to leave for the front lines with his father and sister there to see him off. The family head tells his son to stay healthy and to bring honor to their name during his time away. Jin bows respectfully, promising that he will definitely honor the family and return to see them again. He then turns to thank his sister for coming out so early, but she says it is only natural for such a long journey. Yanhua then holds out a carefully wrapped package for him to take on his trip. He takes the bundle and asks what is inside, and she explains that she prepared some rice balls for him to eat. He asks if she made them herself, and she confirms it, though she admits she cannot guarantee the taste. The young man smiles warmly, thanking her and saying he will enjoy them, calling her the only one he has. With his farewell said, he mounts his horse ready to begin his journey to the front lines. His father and sister watch silently as he and his escorts ride out of the family estate. Sometime later, the group makes its way through a dense forest path, heading toward their destination. Suddenly, Jin pulls on the reins, bringing his horse to an abrupt halt and surprising the guards behind him. One of the men asks about the sudden stop, but Jin simply states that it is not yet time to rest. He observes the group's leader, Jang Gangsong, noticing the man seems worried he might cause trouble. The young man calmly announces to the stunned escorts that he intends to run the rest of the way to Yunnan. He clarifies that he is doing this not only for training but also as a way to lose weight. The guards are incredulous, reminding him of the long distance and his current physical condition. The leader sighs, understanding his determination but worrying about the losses they will incur due to the contract. Seeing their hesitation, Jin asks the leader what he thinks of the horse he was given for the journey. The man agrees that it is a very fine horse, but he is unsure of what the youth is getting at. Jin then offers to give the valuable horse to the escorts, which leaves the leader momentarily speechless. The other guards immediately start whispering, realizing that a horse like that would be worth a significant amount. He had expected them to try and take advantage, but their greed is still a bit disappointing to see. The leader, however, sighs and decides to be honest with the young master. He explains that for a horse of that quality, the price would be far too much for them to accept as a simple fee. But surprised by this unexpected honesty, Jin apologizes for misjudging the warrior and praises his character. The man awkwardly tries to downplay the compliment, admitting he is well aware of the horse's high value. He adds that he is also worried his own resolve might weaken if he were to keep such a fine animal for himself. Jin proposes they think of it as a mutually beneficial exchange, asking for some conveniences in return for the horse. The leader looks at the young master with new respect, realizing he is completely different from the rumors. He agrees to the terms, shaking Jin's hand and promising that they will do their best to accommodate him, and so his long run began, a journey that would take 3 days by horse but much longer on foot. He knows the grueling task will be difficult, but he is confident it will be the nourishment for his rebirth with grim determination. He vows that in this life, he will be different no matter what it takes. The journey quickly proves to be too much for his unfit body, and he soon gets sick from the exertion. His escorts rush to his side, worried he might be trying to find an excuse to avoid going to the front lines, but he brushes off their concerns, wipes his mouth, and declares that he has rested enough and is ready to go. A short while later, he is lying flat on his back on the ground, completely exhausted with the escorts watching. The men can't believe how difficult running seems to be for him as they stand around with their horses. He hasn't even lasted 30 minutes, and now he feels too weak to move a single finger. He feels a cloth gently wiping the sweat from his face, and looks up in confusion. A young woman with blue hair offers him a handkerchief, telling him to wipe his sweat. He is startled to see her, recognizing her as young lady Chongyeon, and feeling embarrassed by his state. The girl is surprised he knows her name, so he explains that his memory allowed him to recall it from the day before. She tells him to keep the handkerchief as she has several more and places it in his hand. As he holds the cloth to his face, he is unsure how to react to her unexpected kindness. She then offers a small smile and some words of encouragement, saying she will be cheering for him. The young woman turns and walks away, leaving him and the escorts to continue their journey. The guards are amazed and envious that he received a handkerchief from such a lovely young lady. He feels a swell of pride even though he suspects her kindness wasn't meant in a romantic way. Feeling re-energized by the encouragement, he jumps to his feet and rallies the men to continue their run. But his renewed enthusiasm is short-lived, and he soon collapses again, getting sick once more. Seeing his state, the men decide it's a good time to stop and eat before they continue. He drools at the thought of food, realizing that he will be eating outdoors quite a lot on this trip. Later that evening, the group sets up a campfire in the woods, preparing their meal for the night. Jin approaches the men and asks if he could have some of their food as well. The leader agrees, but curiously asks why he isn't eating the meal his sister prepared for him. With a dismissive laugh, he bluntly states that his sister's cooking is not fit for human consumption. The men erupt in laughter, agreeing that it would be unfair if a beautiful lady from a prestigious family could also cook well. One of the guards jokes about his bluntness, but Jin's smile fades as a sudden realization dawns on him. He clenches his fist, a dark expression on his face as he processes a new unsettling thought. In the distance, he imagines small animals and birds that might have eaten the discarded rice balls. The scene in his mind turns grim, as the creatures lie lifeless on the ground, confirming his fears. He remembers how his sister Yanhua acted differently this time compared to his past life. In his previous life, she was his only family, and he found comfort in her worried eyes. But now he recalls the inexplicable hatred and contempt that he had once dismissed as his imagination. He finally understands that his foolish past self had failed to see the truth right in front of him. From the very beginning, his sister was never on his side, and she may have even been involved in his friend's murder. He feels a pang of loss, realizing that just as he gained his father's trust, he has now lost his sister. Standing up with renewed purpose, he tells the men he is ready to continue their training. With a polite smile, he asks if he could borrow one of their blades for his practice. The rest of the journey became a continuous and grueling training session for the young man. He ran while they traveled, swung his blade while they rested, and pushed himself to his absolute limits. He even practiced his cultivation methods with less sleep, determined not to waste a single moment. He knows the front lines are a death trap, so he has no choice but to push himself to the absolute limit. The leader of his escort group admits that he has never seen someone train as fiercely as the young master. He confesses that at first, he didn't think Jin would last long, but now he feels ashamed of his initial judgment. The young man just smiles, explaining that he is simply struggling because he doesn't want to die. Suddenly, he stumbles and falls to the ground, a wave of dizziness washing over him from the intense training. The escorts immediately draw their weapons, sensing danger and demanding to know who is there. A group of rough-looking men emerges from the trees, mocking them for expecting etiquette in a fight. They are surrounded by a large group of bandits, who order them to drop their weapons and surrender. The leader of the bandits, a large man with a double-sided axe, threatens to split their heads in two. The escort leader is shocked, recognizing the man as Mak-Gusam, the infamous leader of the Green Tiger Gang. He quickly whispers to Jin, telling him to take the horse and run if a fight breaks out. Jin remembers hearing about the bandit leader, who is known for being a properly trained martial artist. The escort leader steps forward and respectfully greets the bandit, acknowledging his reputation. He offers to pay a toll, hoping to resolve the situation peacefully through dialogue instead of violence. The bandit leader agrees that a toll sounds good, then declares their toll is everything they own. As his men laugh, the escort leader desperately urges Jin to get on the horse and escape. But the young man stands his ground, angrily demanding to know how they dare attack the third son of the Sunwoo family. The bandit leader looks him over surprised to learn he is from such a prestigious family. The bandit leader simply scoffs unoppressed by the family name, and clearly not intimidated. With a confident stance, Jin and his escorts prepare for the inevitable confrontation with the Green Tiger Gang. The bandit leader accuses him of trying to deceive them, but Jin nervously insists he is from the Soundwoo family. To prove his identity, he pulls out a golden family medallion showing it as proof of his lineage. The leader demands that he throw the medallion over for inspection, refusing to get any closer. One of the escorts warns him not to get close, fearing it's a trap, but the bandit threatens to attack if they don't comply. Jin reluctantly agrees to throw it, but he insists that the bandit must return it, after he has verified its authenticity. He tosses the medallion through the air, and the bandit leader reaches out to catch it. The man catches the golden object, a look of triumph on his face as he prepares to inspect it. But as he glances down, Jin lunges forward with incredible speed, his sword drawn and ready to strike. He unleashes a powerful attack, catching the bandit leader, completely off guard by the sudden ambush. The bandit leader gasps in pain as the blade cuts into him, unable to react in time. His men and the escorts watch in stunned silence as their leader is wounded in the blink of an eye. Realizing it's a trap, the bandits quickly draw their own swords and rush forward to attack. But Jin is ready for them, his hands steady on the hilt of his sword as he prepares for the fight. He meets their charge head-on, deflecting their attacks with a calm and focused expression. With a flurry of swift and precise movements, he cuts through the charging bandits with ease. His blade glows with a faint pink aura as he carves a path of destruction through the enemy ranks. The escort leader, seeing their young master in action, rallies his men to charge in and support him. The remaining bandits, terrified by his overwhelming skill, begin to panic and try to flee. He stands victorious, his back to the fleeing men, a sense of rightness washing over him. He grips his blood-stained sword, feeling his body and soul finally in sync after so long. He feels a deep sense of satisfaction. Rejoicing in the familiar atmosphere of the battlefield, he stands among the fallen bandits, the only one left standing besides his astonished escorts. But the moment the adrenaline fades, he collapses to the ground, utterly exhausted from the fight. His escorts rush to his side, looking down at him with a mix of awe and concern. The leader asks if he is a rejuvenated elder, unable to believe a young master could possess such skill. Jin laughs off the question, pointing out that no rejuvenated elder would collapse from exhaustion after one fight. The leader agrees but notes that it is still impressive for someone so young to kill without hesitation. He adds that it is even stranger to see him resting so comfortably in a place filled with bodies. He then mentions seeing his sword glow, wondering if it could have been the legendary sword Kai. The men are amazed to learn that he used the famous Sanwoo 13 swords, a prestigious phantom sword technique. The leader is impressed by the power of a second-rate technique from such a well-known family. He feels ashamed of his own 20 years of accumulated energy, so Jin asks what cultivation method he uses. The man admits he only knows the 6 harmonies cultivation method, as it was all he could get. Jin recognizes it as a common third-rate method that can be easily found in any marketplace. He then surprises the man by saying that building 20 years of energy with such a basic method is actually quite impressive. The leader calls for his men to get going, his expression a mix of embarrassment and renewed determination. Jin watches them, seeing a reflection of his past self in a man whose efforts haven't paid off due to a lack of resources. The men lead their horses, their respect for the young master having grown immensely after the battle. The young warrior sits in quiet contemplation, a new plan forming in his mind as they prepare to leave. After days of continuous running and training, the group finally arrives at the entrance to Yunnan province. Finally, after 9 long days of travel, the group arrives at a proper inn. Much to everyone's relief, Jin generously offers to pay for a round of drinks, celebrating their last day together as a group. The men cheer, praising him for his generosity and reaffirming their belief in him. He smiles, happy to share a final meal with the men who have accompanied him on his difficult journey. Later, they are all sitting around a table, sharing drinks and stories from their travels. One of the warriors mentions that he plans to return home to his wife and children after this job is finished. Another man teases him, saying that wandering warriors shouldn't have families to tie them down. As they are joking, the innkeeper announces the arrival of a beautiful young lady. Jin and the others turn to see who it is, and one of the men recognizes her from their journey. The young lady Chang Yin walks into the inn, her expression calm and composed as always. She glances around the room, her eyes briefly meeting those of the men at the table. The escort immediately recognizes her as the kind lady who offered Jin a handkerchief on the road. One of the men nudges Jin, excitedly pointing out that young lady Chang Yin has arrived. He stands up and waves enthusiastically, calling out to her and remarking on the coincidence of their meeting. He eagerly invites her to join them at their table, clearing a space for her to sit. He then laughs nervously, realizing she has already taken a seat before he even finished his invitation. The men welcome her warmly, offering her a drink and asking if she would like to order some food. She politely declines the food for now, her expression thoughtful as she seems to consider something. Then to everyone's surprise, she announces that she is also thinking of volunteering for the front lines. Jin is completely stunned by her statement, unable to believe what he has just heard. The young lady covers her mouth trying to find the right words to explain her sudden decision. Jin finds it hard to believe knowing that even renowned warriors are reluctant to go to such a dangerous place. He asks her directly why she would want to volunteer for the front lines, but she remains silent, changing the subject. He notes that she seems to have lost a lot of weight since they last met. He laughs and explains that it's because he has been training, and she agrees that he has become quite slim. One of the escorts chimes in, praising the young master for his incredible hard work during their journey. He adds that since losing weight, the young master has become quite handsome, and Jin proudly agrees. The young lady then excuses herself, saying she needs to step out for a moment and leaves the table. She walks away from the group, her expression unreadable, as she heads toward a quieter part of the inn. The men at the table resume their cheerful conversation, inviting Jin to have another drink. He happily accepts, enjoying the camaraderie and the brief moment of relaxation after their long journey. Alone in a quiet clearing outside, the young lady lets out a sigh of relief, finally able to be by herself. She quietly admits to herself that she found the young master's slimmed-down appearance to be quite cute. His new look reminded her of her treasured doll, a small teddy bear she calls Dumpling. She recalls the impressive move he used against the bandits and the intriguing details she learned about his past. All of these things had stimulated her curiosity, drawing her to him in a way she hadn't expected. She also remembers his waddling appearance and his almost unrealistic lack of stamina. She felt she couldn't just leave him to be killed by the demons of the blood cult. It was her duty as a witness to his hidden cuteness to protect him from the dangers ahead. That was the real reason she had followed him all the way to this inn, but she struggles to find the right way to tell him. She decides that since he is no longer weak, there is no reason for her to go to the front lines anymore. With her mind made up, she plans to head back home the next day. Her mission to protect him now complete. But as she is walking through the woods, a sudden noise startles her, and she lets out a terrified scream. She draws a thin-like sword, her body tense as she frantically calls out for help. An unseen force rushes past her, and she falls to the ground, wondering what kind of monster it could be. A massive, shadowy figure with a red aura looms over her, its muscular form promising a deadly fight. The creature attacks with incredible speed, and she realizes, with a jolt of fear, that it has no intention of defending itself. Seeing an opening, she tightens her grip on her sword, preparing to end the fight with a single, decisive strike. She unleashes a powerful flurry of slashes, her blade glowing with a bright blue energy as it cuts through the air. To her utter shock, the creature easily deflects her attack with its bare hands completely unharmed. The shadowy figure leaps into the air, its body radiating a dark and menacing energy as it prepares to strike. It lands a powerful blow, sending her flying backward with a cry of pain. The creature then unleashes a strange, expanding energy wave, forcing her to brace for the impact. She manages to block the attack, but the force of the blow still sends her skidding across the ground. As the dust settles, she looks up in disbelief, wondering what kind of monster she is facing. The creature's shadowy form dissipates, revealing a muscular man with a strange, stitched-up mouth. He lets out a primal scream and charges forward again, his eyes glowing with a menacing red light. She readies her glowing blue sword, preparing to meet his ferocious assault with her own power. She unleashes a series of rapid slashes, but the man easily parries each one with his bare hands. She is completely stunned, her arm trembling from the force of his blocks, unable to comprehend his immense power. Suddenly, one of the escorts who had been standing guard rushes back, shouting about the commotion. He tries to intervene, but the muscular man grabs the young lady, using her as a shield. The guard's sword shatters against the creature's incredibly tough skin, the impact jarring his arm. He stares at his broken blade in disbelief, stunned by the man's unnatural durability. The creature then brutally attacks the escort, who is now defenseless against the powerful assault. It grabs the young lady from behind, its massive hand covering her mouth to stifle her screams. With a cruel grip, it forces her to watch as it prepares to finish off the fallen guard. The creature lets out a sinister laugh, its eyes glowing with a terrifying red light as it savors the moment. The young lady watches in horror, her eyes wide with fear, as she is held captive by the monster. Just as the creature is about to strike, a flash of light cuts through the air, hitting it directly in the chest. The powerful blow sends the creature stumbling backward, its head snapping back from the force of the impact. Jin and the other escorts arrive just in time, and he rushes to the young lady's side to see if she is okay. One of the men cries out in anguish, seeing that his fellow escort Yang Ga has been killed in the fight. Jin tells everyone to get back inside the inn, but the men are hesitant to leave their fallen comrade behind. The creature lets out another enraged scream and charges toward the group with renewed ferocity. Jin quickly pulls the young lady behind him, shielding her from the monster's relentless attack. He meets the creature's charge head on, their blades clashing in a shower of sparks and red energy. He shouts for everyone to get back inside the inn, his expression grim as he recognizes the formidable enemy. The young lady, still in shock, looks at her torn sleeve, a grim reminder of how close she came to death. She stares at the monster with a mix of fear and confusion, trying to comprehend the nightmarish situation. The young lady looks on with wide-eyed terror, completely frozen by the sudden and brutal attack. The monster attacks with a powerful red slash, but Jin quickly moves to shield the young lady from the blow. It lets out a furious roar, its muscular body glowing with a dark and menacing energy. Jin pulls the girl down to the ground, covering her mouth and gesturing for her to remain completely silent. The creature looms over them, its dark aura pulsing as it slowly scans the immediate area. He then noticed that the strange man has been keeping his eyes closed this entire time. The young lady realizes with dawning horror that the monster's vision must be severely impaired. She clings to him in fear, asking if he is all right as the creature stands menacingly nearby. A wide, terrifying grin spreads across the monster's face, its stitched mouth stretching open. It suddenly turns and rushes back toward the inn, and Jin realizes the other people are in grave danger. Inside, the inn is in complete chaos as the monster attacks and a child has been caught in the fight. One of the escorts lies dead on the floor as the patrons scream in terror, calling it a monster. Jin and the girl watch in horror as the creature targets another one of his men. The monster rampages through the room, cutting down anyone who stands in its path. It grabs a guard sword with its bare hands, and the man stares in shock, wondering where it came from. The terrified guard trembles, pleading for his life as the creature's grip tightens. Just as the monster raises its hand for a final blow, Jin leaps forward to intervene. He blocks the attack, sending the guard flying backward to safety while confronting the creature directly. The escort leader tells him to retreat, but Jin shouts for everyone to be quiet, standing his ground. The other guards panic, with one calling for the authorities, while another cries out to be saved. The young warrior knows this is a terrible situation, and that they must silence the monster somehow. The creature declares that no one will survive the night, as it crouches among the wreckage. The escort leader watches in terror, realizing the monster is preparing to attack them again. In a desperate move, Jin suddenly runs across the room, letting out a loud cry to draw its attention. He quickly grabs the edge of a large tablecloth, pulling it with all his might. With a powerful heave, he flips the entire table, sending dishes crashing to the floor with a loud noise. Enraged by the sound, the monster whips its head around and screams for everyone to be quiet. Now that he has its full attention, Jin stands ready, facing the creature in the middle of the room. His escorts watch nervously, unsure of what the young master is planning to do. The young lady watches the scene unfold, her expression a mix of concern and curiosity. Jin stands beside a small stool, his gaze fixed on his blind and powerful opponent. He places his hand firmly on the wooden seat, gauging its weight and position. With a swift kick, he sends the stool sliding across the floor in the opposite direction. The monster immediately turns its head, its senses tracking the sound of the moving stool. The escort leader quickly covers his companion's mouth, understanding the need for absolute silence. The panicked man struggles for a moment, his eyes wide with fear before realizing the plan. Jian looks around, desperately searching for another object he can use to create a distraction. Suddenly, the young lady leaps high into the air, her body glowing with a brilliant blue aura. She lands a powerful kick directly on the side of the monster's head, the impact echoing through the inn. After delivering the blow, she gracefully flips away, creating distance from the stunned creature. She lands in a low crouch on the floor, her eyes fixed on her opponent as she prepares for its reaction. The young lady rushes forward, her eyes filled with a fierce and unwavering determination. She unleashes a series of rapid slashes, her glowing blade moving too fast for the creature to block. As she fights, she yells at Jin, urging him to quickly explain the situation to the others. He shouts that the monster only identifies people by sound, telling everyone to be completely silent. The terrified escorts immediately cover their mouths, trying their best not to even breathe too loudly. Jin knows that simply staying quiet will not be enough to defeat such a powerful enemy. He warns that if the creature cannot hear, it will start using its sense of smell to hunt them down. To counter this, he needs to act first, and finds a way to properly draw the monster's attention. He spots a bowl filled with strings of coins, realizing it is the perfect tool for his plan. He knows he must act quickly while the creature is still distracted by the young laddie's assault. She looks over in surprise, momentarily confused by what the young warrior is doing. He holds a bottle of alcohol and some food, putting a finger to his lips to signal for her silence. The scene is a tense standoff, with the young lady keeping the monster occupied as Jin prepares his trap. His plan is to first get the creature's attention by using the sound of the coins. He throws the strings of coins, expecting the simultaneous sounds to confuse the monster and immobilize it. While it is disoriented by the noise, he will then have a chance to approach it undetected. As the coins clatter, the monster stops and turns, trying to pinpoint the source of the sound. An escort watches in shock as a piece of pottery shatters on the floor nearby from the commotion. The plan works perfectly, and Jin manages to get right behind the distracted creature without a sound. He knows he cannot afford to make a single mistake, as one touch from the monster would be fatal. He carefully places his hands on the creature's neck, holding his breath as he gets into position. But at that critical moment, a loud hiccup escapes from his mouth, shattering the tense silence. The sound echoes through the room, and even one of the terrified escorts hiccups in a panic. The monster's ear twitches as it instantly hones in on the sudden noise, its body tensing. It slowly turns its head to face him, and the young warrior freezes, his eyes wide with sheer terror. His heart pounds in his chest as he realizes his carefully laid plan has just gone horribly wrong. The creature leans in close, sniffing the air as it begins to use its nose to pinpoint his exact location.
Alright, that's the end of the story. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.